Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. This week our special guest is District 19 U.S. House Representative Jodey Arrington. You know, we're making this kind of a theme of a monthly kind of chat.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the program.
It's always good to be with you, Manny, and it's great to be back in the big country.
Well, last month you and the House GOP celebrated the passage of the budget resolution plan endorsed by President Trump that focuses on future fiscal years. Tell us about getting that passed, and since the Senate has a budget resolution of their own, what are the key differences between the two?
Well, just in case the viewers are a little confused, there's an annual budget that we passed that actually reduced spending, will be tens of billions of dollars over the budget window. We also redirected monies to border security and defense, and we rescinded monies, wasteful monies because it was part of the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, expansion of the IRS. And we didn't think that was appropriate. We sent it back to the Treasury to pay down our deficit. So that was the one that Chuck Schumer probably was loath to sign, but he did, and we got it passed. The budget reconciliation still comes out of my budget committee and is under our leadership, and we shepherded it through the process. It's the principal legislative vehicle for advancing the America First agenda. It's got all the economic policies, tax, regulation, energy. It's got restoring fiscal sanity in Washington and staving off a debt crisis by reducing wasteful and unnecessary spending. And then it's got monies for the military and readiness and modernizing the military also, as the president is at breakneck speed now to enforce the immigration laws, secure our border, and deport people who should not be here. He needs resources to do that. That has passed not only my committee, but we passed it out of the House with a one-vote margin. We could only stand to lose one Republican, but it's in the Senate now, and I'm encouraging my Senate colleagues to take up the budget resolution, start writing the policies that will meet those budget targets in the resolution, get it on the president's desk so that these laws and policies can be the reality of our country, bringing the cost down, securing our border, making America safer and more prosperous.
Is it safe to say that your House budget resolution that's coming from your committee, is that being used as kind of like the blueprint for the Senate to kind of follow and kind of get things done with that?
That's a great description. It's a blueprint for the America First policies, and it runs the gamut. Again, you've got economic policies, fiscal policies, security, all in one legislative tool. This was the same tool the Democrats used to pass the, quote, Inflation Reduction Act, the $2 trillion American Relief Act in 2021. So it's the most consequential piece of legislation that will occur in the 4 years of the Trump administration. I think it will be, if we can pass it, the most consequential law and set of policies in modern history.
Well, you played a key role in securing emergency disaster relief for farmers in late 2024. What impact will this have on them? Certainly as President Trump negotiates with neighboring countries and putting tariffs in play.
Well, our farmers need a safety net to stabilize the ag economy. And we need a stable ag economy because we need food security. And food security is national security for every state and every citizen, whether you're in rural America or you're in urban and suburban centers. We don't have a farm bill. It happens every 5 years. We passed ours out of the House. Our Democrat colleagues did not return the favor. And so we had to do basically a stopgap measure with this economic assistance. It was roughly $10 billion. I worked with the Speaker, with the Appropriations Chair and the Ag Committee Chair, and we got the resources necessary to get us through this cycle, but we've got to get a new farm bill that reflects the economic realities and a safety net that reflects those realities, mainly inflation. Farmers have seen fuel, seed, fertilizer, all their input costs have gone through the roof because we experienced a cost of living crisis, not just affecting our families, it's affecting our mom and pop shops, it affects our family farmers. So we are well underway on the Farm Bill. We've got to the end of this fiscal year. I believe we'll meet that deadline. And I think the work we're doing in the Budget Reconciliation Bill is going to make it easier to get the Farm Bill done, because 80% of the Farm Bill is food stamps. A lot of people don't know that. And we are desperately in need for reforming welfare programs of all kinds to incentivize work, to make sure we're not being defrauded, to make sure that states and local entities aren't gaming the system. So once we tighten up the program integrity in the reconciliation process for food stamps, the Farm Bill will have an easier path to success.
Real quick, keeping the rural folks in mind, you've introduced two bills aimed at rural health care, the Telehealth Expansion Act and the Second Chances for Rural Hospitals Act. Tell us a little bit about these bills and the likelihood of them becoming law.
Well, in order to have the next generation of farmer, rancher, energy producer in rural America, their families have to have access to basic care. And one way to do that is leverage technology and make sure that that they have access to specialty care. It would be too expensive to have that fixed cost in a rural hospital, but they can pipe that service in with consults like nurses who are basically facilitating those engagements. So that's what the telemedicine bill is all about. It's to make sure that that's economic for the hospitals in terms of reimbursement. And the second piece is we basically do away with some of the federal mandates. One in particular is for rural hospitals, because rural hospitals have been forced to have inpatient beds even if they can't afford them or don't utilize them. Some of these rural hospitals in these small towns simply need basically an emergency room and a clinic. And once they stabilize somebody, if they need additional care, then they go to a Hendrick or a hospital in one of the sort of mid-sized towns like Lubbock or Abilene. I guess if it's serious enough, they could go to Dallas. But this bill allows them to survive because they simply can't afford the inpatient cost. Some hospitals have had to close. This bill would actually allow them to reopen under the Rural Emergency Hospital designation.
And you're getting bipartisan support for this.
This one had bipartisan support from the outset. I'm grateful to my Democrat colleagues who saw the importance of this critical infrastructure for rural America, and this second wave of this to help those that closed before we could get this law passed also has Democrat support.
Yeah. All right, we're going to step aside for a quick commercial break, but when we come back, more with U.S. House Representative Jodey Arrington and his tour of a Big Country ice facility. That and more after the break.
Welcome back to Big Country Politics on KTAB.
Well, welcome back to the Sunday Conversation here on Big Country Politics. Our special guest this week is District 19 U.S. House Representative Jodey Arrington. This week you toured the Bluebonnet Ice Detention Center in Jones County. Tell us about that visit and what you intend to take back to Washington based on your observations.
Well, I would say elections have consequences, and the last 4 years of lawlessness and chaos cost us dearly, mostly from a security standpoint and a safety standpoint. We lost more people than we did in the Vietnam War in 1 year from the drugs that are pouring across the border. Today, we have a president who has the will and who is totally committed to securing our sovereign border and protecting our citizens. That means that we have to detain folks who are here until they adjudicate any asylum claims, and that takes money. Both the adjudication process doesn't have the capacity now, our detention facilities don't have the capacity. So what I heard from our folks at the ICE facility in Anson is that year over year, they have twice as many people detained. That means we're actually enforcing the laws and keeping people off of the streets and out of our neighborhoods until we determine their intent and whether they have a legitimate asylum claim. And if they don't, then they're going to be deported. But the other issue is the bureaucracy. The ICE folks would say that they couldn't get decisions made in the previous administration. They actually said that DOGE is cutting through that red tape, allowing them to get the answers they need to make the decisions on the ground. Lastly, you've got the ICE folks feeling a sense of morale increase because they are doing the job that they signed up for, which is providing security for the American people. Before, they were hamstrung. Now, as they told me, the rhetoric in Washington matches what is happening on the ground, and these guys are happy because they signed up for a very important job, and this administration is empowering them to do that.
You mentioned DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, on Tuesday in a report with our Tobin Smith, and how its efforts are impacting the day-to-day jobs, the jobs of ICE agents. You know, I know you briefly touched on that. Can you provide us with some examples of what you're hearing from these agents and how it's really making their job, I guess, better, if you will?
Well, there's the famous email that went out by Elon Musk to every government worker saying, name 5 things that you did this week or last week. What did you achieve? And one of the responses there at the ICE facility was apprehend, detain, apprehend, detain, apprehend, detain. And I suspect that's music to the ears of President Trump and Elon Musk and the administration, because that's exactly what they feel like the American people hired them to do. Reverse course on the lawlessness, the catch and release, and the deluge of crime, criminals, gang members, drugs coming into our country. But the sense that I got was because there is actually accountability in Washington for those senior leaders of these various agencies and departments, that people are actually being empowered to do their job so they can perform on behalf of their agency and what they were hired to do. But DOGE broadly is uncovered a lot of waste. I think they've now saved in the tens of billions of dollars.
Yes.
It's certainly going to be more because the Government Accountability Office says there's upwards of $500 billion a year in waste, fraud, and abuse. But we've heard some of the most absurd and outrageous examples of waste at USAID. DEI orchestras and musicals in Ireland, Sesame Street, $20 million to give Sesame Street there in the Middle East, transgender comic books in Peru. It's ridiculous. And this isn't just happening at USAID, it's throughout the government. It's pervasive. And the taxpayers deserve more, our country deserves more, and we're rooting that out in the budget reconciliation process. And DOGE is doing that every day in the bureaucracy, and our country's going to be better for it, and taxpayers will be better served as a result.